Hello, everyone. My name is Lindy Hernandez, and I'm presenting our paper, At the End of the Day, I Am Accountable Gig Workers Self Tracking for Multidimensional Accountability Management. By exploring self tracking in the gig economy, we discovered how the practice relates to gig workers' accountabilities. We use accountability since it's a more relational concept that captures the intricacies of the relationships, expectations, and influences that shape gig workers' behavior and decisions. With this study, we explore the practice of self tracking within the gig economy and identify strategies to enhance support for gig workers in their roles. Now, many of us may be familiar with the gig economy, a landscape characterized by short term contracts and peer to peer work. Gig workers, ranging from rideshare drivers to delivery couriers, play a crucial role in this ecosystem, providing on demand services that power our modern lifestyle. But there is so much more to what gig workers do than simply delivering food or providing rides from point A to point B. Gig workers are embedded in a system where they are constantly monitored and tracked, as facilitated by algorithmic management. This pervasive tracking is inherent in the gig economy, allowing platforms to monitor performance metrics, optimize routes, and provide customers with real time updates on their orders. In addition to this, gig workers have been observed to self track, but their practices are only briefly touched on, with no focused studies that delve into understanding why they self track and how they use self track data on a broader scale. Thus, we explore the questions: why and how do gig workers self track? To do this, we conducted 25 semi structured interviews with gig drivers from a diverse set of gig platforms and who use a variety of self tracking tools in their work lives. During interviews, we probed into what they track, how they use their data, and their experience with tracking. We then applied an inductive thematic analysis to iteratively code data and generate themes with a bottom up approach. We organized the data they track, their analyses, and their motivation for tracking into 3 accountable identities that gig workers manage with self tracking. This makes up the accountable self of the gig worker, where they manage accountability to both external entities and themselves. In being self accountable, gig workers assume responsibility for their actions and decisions with minimal external observation or enforcement. In the following slides, I'm going to be delving into each of these dimensions of the accountable self. First, we have the personal accountabilities to the holistic self. Gig workers' holistic selves refers to themselves and their personal networks like their families. Accountabilities to themselves involve generating knowledge to be able to improve themselves, as indicated here by P11. Gig workers are also accountable to their personal networks or those who are directly impacted by their gig work. For example, if a worker depends on their gig income to support their family, they're accountable for generating sufficient income for their family's needs. These encapsulate the holistic selves that gig workers self track to gather knowledge on and act in the interest of, enabling them to make informed decisions about when to work and how much and which jobs to take. In our interviews, we found that gig workers use self tracking to manage accountabilities to their holistic selves by tracking personally relevant information that may not be adequately tracked by platforms. This can include either incomplete information or data not being displayed in a sufficient manner. In the quote here, P11 describes how platform track data is more relevant to the platform's business than it is to the worker's own needs. And so P11 and other participants look to external self tracking tools to track their finances, time spent working, overall mileage, or their personal experiences while working. With this data, they can better understand the job's nature and make informed decisions to maintain work life balance. Specifically, participants use their data to generate insights into their behavior, activity, and experience as it relates to their work. In the quote here, P25 describes how they initially tracked to know what it was like working with a platform shipped because they had never done gig work before. They also utilized this information to evaluate work opportunities in accordance with their personal, professional, and financial goals. For instance, P10 shared information with their spouse to consider family needs when determining how much additional work to undertake and when to work. Within this identity, we see that workers are empowered as they gain knowledge about themselves, reflect on their activity, and make informed decisions. With this, they can maintain accountabilities to their personal networks who are most affected by their gig work. Additionally, their rational selves can remain accountable for their emotional well-being through increased awareness and acting in their own self-interest. Self-tracking allows them to cultivate their autonomy and control in the gig economy as they can use their collected information to empower their decision-making. Next, we have the fiscal and resource accountabilities to the entrepreneurial self, where overseeing their finances and taxes make up their fiscal accountabilities, while managing their vehicles and time refer to resource accountabilities. As independent contractors, gig workers see themselves as a business, as seen in the quote here by P9. Thus, they have to consider their obligations and accountabilities as self employed individuals to both their business and to the government. This encapsulates the entrepreneurial self. To navigate the accountabilities they hold, participants shared how they have to keep track of different aspects of their activity that are not tracked by platforms in the way that the worker needs it to be. For example, in the quote here, P25 shares how Shipped does not track mileage, and so they had to use external self tracking tools to meet their accountability needs. In addition to mileage, participants also track data such as their income, expenses, vehicle related information, and time to ensure that their business is a success. In the interest of time, I'm only going to be presenting 2 of our findings subsections. You may read our paper for the full analysis of the entrepreneurial self that gig workers self-track for. Within this accountable self, workers manage one part of their fiscal accountabilities by ensuring proper tax filing. As independent contractors, gig workers must file self-employment taxes for their gig work income. Thus, participants discuss the importance of properly filing taxes and accurately tracking financial and mileage information to maximize their tax deductions. In the quote here, P7 emphasizes the importance of tracking mileage to earn money through the tax deductibles that they can claim with mileage. In addition to filing taxes, gig workers also use self-tracking to maintain their vehicles. In the quote here, P10 talks about just how much mileage they put on their vehicle after only a couple months' use for gig work. Since gig workers heavily rely on their vehicles for their duties, this necessitates self-tracking vehicle-related information like their mileage, oil levels, and fuel efficiency for efficient car maintenance scheduling and vehicle utilization. In sum, with this identity, we see how participants treated their gig work as a business by ensuring its success through filing their taxes, evaluating finances, and managing resources such as their vehicles and time, encapsulating their fiscal and resource accountabilities to their entrepreneurial selves. Finally, we have the performance accountabilities to the platformized self. Gig workers are lightly managed by metrics and ratings that are either platform or customer generated, which P18 likened to an evaluation from an employer. The platformized self refers to the worker's identity that is influenced by the activity and relationships that they establish within the gig platform, so with the platform and with the customer. These metrics are performance evaluators that have implications on one's gig work experience, but their definitions and how they work aren't always clear to the worker. In this quote, P7 explains how they independently figured out how platforms evaluated performance data. As a result, they started monitoring the number of orders delivered to exert some control over their metrics. Given this, our participants demonstrated how they self-tracked details about their jobs, as well as similar information that metrics reportedly tracked about the worker, to better understand how platform metrics operate and proactively manage their ratings to avoid consequences. To better understand platform metrics, participants describe monitoring them and tracking similar data as a way of ensuring that their performance is accurately reflected on the platform. Information asymmetries are prevalent in the gig economy. Workers don't always know how the platforms they work for make decisions because the platforms don't share that information openly. This puts the worker in a tough spot because they don't fully understand how the system works. In the quote here, P25 shared how they felt the need to be more involved with the platform metrics process by tracking the same information that platforms tracked about them. Participants also described taking proactive steps to safeguard their reputation by adjusting their behavior and mitigating potential repercussions. In the quote to the left, P7 details a time that they could not complete a delivery, and so made a note of that in case it negatively impacted their metrics. If it did, then they would dispute it and use their tracked data to support their dispute. In summary, participants demonstrated a heightened awareness of their metrics and their implications. As those being evaluated, they are accountable for maintaining good metrics, whether through continuous monitoring or disputing with self-tracked data. This behavior stems from concerns about income loss from platform-sanctioned penalties or job insecurity. Leveraging self-tracking enabled them to proactively manage metrics by increasing awareness and holding themselves accountable for their performance, customer satisfaction, and platform compliance. In summary, Due to their classification as independent contractors, gig workers bear the responsibility of managing various accountabilities independently. Unfortunately, gig platforms have often failed to provide adequate support in this regard as they prioritize their own business interests over workers' needs. This means that workers have to put in additional effort to properly track their experiences and activities as it relates to their accountabilities. To do so, gig workers rely on self tracking various data points related to their work, including their finances, mileage, working time, personal experiences, and platform tracked metrics. With this study, we see how gig workers' self tracking reflects accountabilities being transferred to the worker, including ensuring tax compliance, covering business expenses, maintaining personal vehicles for work, and managing work schedules, all of which are self managed with self tracking. While self tracking serves to manage their accountabilities with significant implications on their performance and well being, we also recognize its potential to mitigate information and power asymmetries inherent in the gig economy. Through our findings, we found that gig platforms prioritize their needs with self tracking features centering surveillance centered design that monitors and evaluates the worker, and therefore inadequately meeting gig workers' actual tracking needs. To further support gig workers' self tracking for their multidimensional accountabilities, we suggested the following design implications that focus on workers' needs. Supporting customizable data collection methods encompasses providing features that allow workers to choose what to track, how to track, data sources, and acquisition methods. Designing for flexible data analysis involves providing support to review diverse data types alongside one another to enhance their ability to interpret their data. Finally, offering more transparent data practices includes supporting individuals' understanding of how their information is handled and used both on gig platforms and on external self-tracking applications. Through these, we hope to shed light on gig workers' self-tracking practices, paving the way for increased support for their multidimensional accountability management needs. Before ending this presentation, I would like to thank my collaborators and our reviewers for their valuable feedback. Finally, thank you for watching this presentation. Check out our full paper for more details on our methods, findings, and implications. If you have any questions, please contact me through the email shown here.